Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from the Challenge Championship and the Collins Cup. We're brought to you by Master Spas, Hyperice, Form Smart Swim Goggles, UCAN, HOKA, One, Clash USA, and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, two-time Daytona champion. Clash Daytona now.
Yeah.
Paula Findlay. How you doing, Paula?
I'm good, thanks, Bob. How are you?
I'm wonderful, and you've got a pretty good team here. I was just looking down, and, Teresa Adam and yourself and Jeannie Metzler, Carrie Lester, and then your captain's picks, Ellie Salthouse and Sarah Crowley. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be thinking of these athletes as teammates
Yes.
instead of going in and thinking that I want to beat them. So it's cool. We have a really strong team, and I think every team is really strong, so we have our work cut out for us, but it's definitely a really fun dynamic to be teammates with all these
Does
men
this
and women.
bring you back to your ITU roots, being part of a team?
A little bit with when I represented Canada at the Olympics and then Pan Am
Commonwealth
Games.
and
It really does. And, even this kind of cool flag that they've made up for us because we're represented by 4 different countries is really cool. And seeing everyone walking around in their tracksuits and their team shirts. So it's like vaguely similar to an Olympic Games or a major games with everyone.
But your captains are 2 Canadian legends, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's another cool part is seeing Lisa Bentley and Simon Whitfield and having their leadership and just friendship, really. I've been
You've been close to Simon,
for
a long time, right?
Yeah, I've known Simon especially for a long time, so it's been really nice to catch up with him, and I haven't seen him for a few years because of the pandemic, so it's kind of funny that we're all meeting in Slovakia. But I really, really look up to them both, and as you said, they're both Canadian, so it's pretty cool.
Now, what have you been up to since you had Daytona, and then what have you been doing
since Daytona? That feels like 10 years ago.
I know, right? It's like, wow, that was back in different century.
Yeah, so that was December last year. But since then, Eric and I got
a house you bought a house.
Yeah, moved to Bend, raced Challenge Miami where I saw you last, and then St. George has been my last race. So had a little bit of an injury June, July. It's better now, but I didn't run a lot for those 2 months. So my mission heading into 2021 was to stay healthy, and that was the key to my success in Daytona. And unfortunately, I got a little overambitious. And you can never take it for granted when you're healthy and running. You still have to be smart. So a little setback, but it was okay timing because, the big races are now and I can run again. So,
what's hard is when you're going well, it's hard to sort of I'll save it and that way I'll stay healthy.
Yeah, and I think 2020 was great for me because there was no pressure of races on the horizon. So I was never rushing myself or putting pressure on myself to get through run sessions. It was doing it because I was healthy and feeling good. And if I couldn't do a session one day, I just didn't. And then 2021 rolls around and suddenly there's races back on the calendar. And the old me came back a little bit where I was rushing to get fit and, wanting to get better and better. And it was a little bit addicting when you have a good race like I did in Daytona. So I pushed it a little too much. And, every athlete has to find that line between injury and getting fitter. So, it's kind of too bad, but it's okay.
So one of the races that I really enjoyed watching was you and Lucy at I think your first Daytona win, right? Mm-hmm. You got to go head-to-head with Lucy. And how fun was that for you to just have that head-to-head type racing?
Yeah, Daytona in 2019 was cool because it was a bit of a smaller field. It was a funny time of year. It was in December, so I think she had already done Kona and got married and had a bit of an off season. So I don't think Lucy was at her best fitness, but it was cool for me to come back and have a good race after a pretty big dry spell of not racing well. And that sort of, got me excited about 2020. And then unfortunately everything was canceled that year except for the other Daytona. So it's always really fun to race people that are the best, and that's kind of what Collins Cup is all about. I don't know who I'm lining up against tomorrow yet. Probably by the time this video is out, I will know. But anyone I'm up against is going to be one of the best in the world. So
there's no question. Yeah. You have a preference who you want to race?
I would like to race Lucy again. I think it's a fun dynamic because I am always, no matter what, going to be chasing her out of the water.
Yes.
And I sort of like that, knowing what the gap is, knowing if it's growing or getting smaller. And the course here suits me because it's not technical. It's kind of like Daytona. It's flat, it's fast. It's like riding the trainer, which is kind of my strength, which is embarrassing. But so we'll see. Yeah, it'll also be a different dynamic in the swim because there's only 3 athletes setting off at a time. So a lot less contact, a lot less, tactics. I'm just going to try to get on her feet for as long as I can. That might be just 10 meters, but if I'm racing her, of course,
right.
and who knows? But
then you might have somebody sitting on your feet. What the
yeah,
hell?
exactly.
Who wants that? So you win that race in 2019. Of course, then everybody's like, okay, everybody's coming in 2020, right? Everybody's going to be there, and Paula's not going to win again because the field's so much better.
Yeah, it was a different race.
Yeah, but you did.
Yeah, I totally wasn't expecting it, but I knew I was fit relative to like my training years prior to that.
Yes.
So I didn't know what to expect, but I did think a top 5 was possible. And given the caliber of field, I thought that would be like a great day if I could be on the podium. So when I was leading the bike and it felt really good and running on, with a few minutes lead even, it kind of was one of those like magic races where it doesn't feel too hard and everything just came together. And I guess I was fitter than I thought I was and managed 2020 pretty well to be able to perform well at the end of that kind of strange year.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you go through the dry spell and you're not racing well, you're injured, how hard is it to stay in it, right? Because there's obviously you have other options. You can go off and get real jobs and things like that. But just talk a little bit about, just because it's, I don't think people at home realize that the highs and lows that athletes go through.
Yeah, sometimes not. And it gets harder and harder as I get older to go through injury periods. And this last few months has been particularly challenging because I did feel what it was like to win at the top level and had this belief that maybe I could win a world championship
Why
if
not?
I could win Daytona.
Yeah.
And then I get hurt and I'm like, wow, I'm still a little fragile. And so it does get harder. What keeps me in it and excited about it is doing this with Eric and having a partner that is also training and has goals in the sport and is, we get each other at the door. And when I can't run, I can still ride and swim as much as I can.
Exactly.
So there's 2 other sports to train for and improve in. So Eric and I are pretty honest about our ups and downs, and we put out a few videos recently where I was like very honest about how much I was struggling and had a lot of people reaching out, making sure I was okay. And I think that's like the side that people don't see. And it's really real. Like every athlete experiences that. And most athletes, you're going to bounce back eventually. Injuries don't last forever. And when you do come out the other side and race well, it makes it that much more special. So if I didn't have that race in Daytona, it would make these injuries and the downtimes a lot more difficult because I'd start losing belief. But that was fairly recently. So I still think I can get back to that level.
There's no reason you can't. It's funny, though, when you do share like that, people are like, "Oh my God, you need a therapist? Can I come over and see you? Can I give you a hug?"
Yeah. Well, mental health is a very talked about subject now, especially
for good reason.
Coming off of Tokyo and a lot of athletes being more outspoken about it. And Eric's, pulls out the camera just in our day-to-day life, so it's very raw and a lot of it's maybe a little dramatic. And I was totally fine, and I was sad and I was having a hard week, but it comes across in the video that I was a lot worse than I actually was. So but a lot of people reached out and just thanked us because it's very relatable, and every athlete, not just professional athletes, have struggles like that in their day-to-day life and day-to-day training. You don't always feel good, you don't always feel excited to train, and that's the reality of it. So to be relatable to people that do win races and have had success, we have those days too.
Well, has it been helpful to be, because once you started your show, then the binds are off. It's, at that point, once you said, okay, we are sharing and we're going to share everything. Yeah. Does it sometimes, is it hard to be that open, or is it a little cathartic where it's like, this feels good to share?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag. I probably myself need to read the comments less because a lot of those can come back and be pretty negative and, make me feel hard on myself. And same with Eric. If he reads a negative comment, he gets really affected as well. So we do like reading the comments though, because we can reply to people that are giving us positive feedback, and it just we want to be relatable and people feel like they can reach out to us. So it's good and bad. And I think given that Eric edits it and produces it all himself, we do have a bit of creative control over what I say. So he can, if I don't feel like talking to the camera, we can do it in an hour or two. You can do everything. So it's not like we have a film crew following us around. So it's been mostly good.
Is there pressure, feeling like, okay, oh my God, it's Tuesday, I got to get another episode ready? Is it?
Yeah.
That to me is the hardest part about having a weekly show. Is
for sure, and it's mostly on Eric because he does the filming and the editing, and I still my sole focus for the most part is like winning races and performing at world championships, and Eric's is too. But at the same time, he has this other big part of our lives that's like, part of our income and part of our, fan base, and keeps us relevant in the sport. And it's like a very important part of our job now. So it does get sometimes hard as like Wednesday, Thursday creep up and we haven't filmed much, and he still knows he has to edit for hours and hours. And yeah, it is really hard. But I think even when Eric puts out a show that he doesn't think is good, it's always good. Like, he's so good at editing and picking good music and stuff like that. So I think people appreciate it no matter how much he likes it.
Yeah, as somebody who's been involved with this sport for a long time now, how has it changed in terms of those responsibilities? Because it used to be, it was all about coming across the finish line first, or second, or whatever that happened to be, and there wasn't social media, there wasn't other obligations besides, we've mentioned my sponsor in my victory speech, that type of thing. It was a little simpler.
It was, I think. Yeah, maybe simpler. And ultimately, I think it still is about winning races. And what made Daytona so special in a way was that we already had this show going and people following our path and felt like they knew me because we'd been putting out the show for a year. So I think they definitely go hand in hand. And you still have to win races and be on podiums to stay relevant. And that's why we do this. It's because we love it and we're competitive and we're good athletes. But there is an increasing demand or responsibility to post good content and photos and videos, and I'm extremely lucky to have Eric, who's talented at that and who loves to do it. And I like it too. Like, I think it's fun to post good photos. Like, there's a part of an artistic side of it as opposed to just going and training super hard. There's this like creative aspect as well. So a lot of athletes don't like it, but Eric and I do. So I think I think it's
helps. Important. It's back in the day, it was, like I said, it was all about winning, and then it became, okay, this is my Twitter following. I've got this many people who are watching what I'm doing. Then that becomes more valuable to sponsors, because do you find that you can do more for sponsors by having your own shows?
Definitely more exposure by putting a weekly show out. There's naturally going to be like a shot of our bikes in every episode or whatever. So not that like the sponsor, I mean, it definitely makes it easier being having that as one of our passions, like taking pictures and videos and stuff. Yeah. The move from Olympic format to 70.3, something you light up. Well, watching the Olympics, I miss that format a lot. I think I was, almost kicked out of it a little bit early because of politics and federations. Right. And it's like really sad to see the Triathlon Canada Federation, the state of it now, and getting out of that in 2017 when I did was, I think, a really good thing for me, because I could kind of take back control of my own career. And that's really when I started to get better and healthier and enjoy the sport more again. So as much as I really love the Olympic distance and the style of racing, I think that I'm much happier and much more well-rounded as a person racing 70.3. And I don't know, there like little parts of me want to go back and try racing ITU, but I am having success at this distance. And especially with the PTO and the new formats that they're putting out, there's a lot more opportunity and support. So no regrets. I really enjoy the non-drafting. Do you see yourself going longer than 70.3, or is that plenty? I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine doing Kona after spending a hot summer in Bend, and just like the heat is so hard for me. But never say never. I would like to do like an Ironman somewhere cold first and rainy, and I think I would thrive in those conditions a little more. But for now, I just really like the half distance, and who knows, maybe in a year or two, I'll give it a full try. And you guys are loving Bend. Yeah, we really love where we live and have Flynn, and it almost makes it harder to come to races like this because we don't want to leave where we live, because we love it so much, and we have such a nice setup there with our friends and our training environment. So it's good and bad. It's harder to travel when you're set up in a place that's awesome like that. But no, it's been really good. It's a great place to train. Yeah. Well, have fun at the Collins Cup, and hopefully you'll be taking it back to Canada.
Oh, you're supposed to split it in a bunch of pieces. You have to say Australia, New Zealand, Canada.
No, I think it's made by Tiffany's. It's like a very fancy cup.
Oh, it is. Yeah, we
had it here yesterday.
You can imagine it was right here.
It's like the Stanley Cup a little bit.
Some guy with white gloves came by earlier and
oh, really?
You have to wear white gloves when you touch it.
Wow,
so, yeah,
that's cool. Well, we have our team parade and team announcements coming up in a few minutes.
I know,
so
and
very excited to
very
hear that.
excited.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking time. Always a pleasure to chat.
Thank you, Bob.
Paula Findlay has been our guest, and that is a wrap for day 2 of Breakfast with Bob from the Challenge Championship and the Collins Cup. You want to check out thecollinscup.com, download the Collins Cup app, and for our people in the U.S., the broadcast will start this Saturday. It's 6:30 Eastern time in the morning. That's leading into the women's race, which starts at 7 a.m. Eastern time, and the men go off at 9. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll catch you later.